Well, hello there and welcome back to our Advent story time. We're now at the halfway point, the 12th of December. By now I'm sure that you're all ready for Christmas. Are you beginning to feel that excitement? In the little bear's journey today, we find him come across a lamb. Jesus is sometimes called the lamb because he's so different to other leaders. He's loving and kind and puts others before himself. Some people think that that's silly, that you should do whatever pleases you. But the story of Christmas is all about how God puts us first by coming to live with us. So shall we see what the bear discovers today? On December the 12th, Benjamin opened the next door and found a lamb. As the little bear set out again early in the morning, he sighed. "Bethlehem is so far," he said. Just then he saw a little lamb. "What are you doing here all alone?" asked the little bear. "Oh," replied the lamb, "I'm hiding. I'm so afraid of the cow with her sharp horns, the eagle with his powerful talons, even your sharp claws, little bear. I have no horns or talons or claws, no strength to defend myself with." The little bear looked up at his star. "You are gentle and kind and patient, little lamb. Those are your great strengths." The little bear stroked the little lamb lovingly on the head. "Come along with me, won't you?" he asked, and together they continued on. "Do you think the little lamb was really strong enough to defend herself?" asked Benjamin. "I think so," said Mother Bear. "Gentleness, kindness and patience are strong weapons indeed." Let's pop through the Advent window and see what's hanging up on our line this morning or this evening, shall we? Well, today marks the halfway point between when we started and Christmas Eve. It seems to have come so quickly, hasn't it? We've had all sorts again characters in our nativity. If you remember correctly, we had the lady with the eggs yesterday. Shall we have a look and see who today's character is? It's a man with a goat, but if you look, he's got his hands in the air. He's celebrating. Celebration. Christmas is all about celebrating, isn't it? About having wonderful times of joy and happiness and enjoyment of life in itself. All the presents that we get and the Christmas mornings and the excitement of Father Christmas. He's celebrating the birth of Jesus, or the announcement of the birth of Jesus, because we're not there yet, are we? Should we pop him in the scene and let him celebrate with everybody else? There he goes. Celebrations are fun, and I hope that you are having a really exciting time. I don't know if you can have Christmas parties at your schools, but if you can, I hope you really enjoy them and have a really fantastic time with all your friends. Come back tomorrow and we'll see the next character that's going in our scene. I remember as a child, Christmas mornings, each year my grandparents would stay over on Christmas Eve, and we'd go to bed on the night and lie awake in the hope of hearing the sleigh bells and catching a glimpse of Father Christmas. But guess what? Every year we'd fall asleep, long before Father Christmas ever got to our house. But one thing I especially remember though, is that each year my granddad would wake us up at about 5 in the morning, excitedly shouting, "He's been, he's been!" And we would rush down the stairs, clutching a stocking filled with sweets. Do you know, I don't remember half the presents I got over the years, but I never forget the way I felt when those words rang out around our house. We're going to hear a story now about Toby and how he is transformed by the kindness of those around him. This is called Toby and the Crib. Toby was big and Toby was strong. But you wouldn't say Toby was the best behaved boy in the class. When all the children were shouting, Toby's voice was always the loudest. And whenever there was a fight, Toby was always in the middle of it. There was even some children in the class who were a little bit afraid of him. On the first day of Advent, the teacher came with a surprise. It was a crib. It looked exactly like the manger in which baby Jesus had once lain. Mrs. Beck put a burlap bag with sweet-scented hay next to it and said, "This is our new Advent calendar. Instead of giving out candy, we're going to discuss which children have helped others or made them happy. Then those children can each put a handful of hay in the crib. The nicer you are to one another, the softer Jesus' bed will become by Christmas Eve." This really annoyed Toby. What a stupid idea. I can tell you now that nobody is going to choose me. He would have much preferred a piece of Advent chocolate, because he always got one in the end. And Toby was right. Every day before they went home, the children sat looking at the crib, discussing who should put in the hay. Nora had shared her sandwiches during the break, and Lena had painted a picture for Susan when she was out sick. Peter had picked up litter from the playground, and Vincent had watered the flowers. So it went on. Soon every child in the class had laid hay in the crib. Every child except Toby. But one day little Lily stood up and said, "Toby should put hay in the crib today. I accidentally knocked his pencil case on the ground and he didn't get upset at all. I thought that was really nice." Toby stared at Lily in amazement because it was true. She had knocked his pencil case off the desk and all the pencils had fallen out. He'd actually been pretty annoyed, but he'd seen at once how sorry and frightened Lily was. Toby's face blushed as red as a brick as he reached into the bag and pulled out a handful of hay. It was crispy and gave off a wonderful scent of summer. Very carefully, he pressed the hay down in the crib. Now baby Jesus' bed would be a little bit softer. 2 days later, Lily stood up again. Toby should put hay in the crib. Nora and I were supposed to collect all the waste paper, and he carried the heavy box downstairs for us. "It's true," said Nora. "It was really kind of Toby." Toby felt embarrassed. He wasn't used to people saying nice things about him, but he was really happy when he was allowed to stuff another handful of hay into the crib. It was not the last. Somehow Toby suddenly found that it was a lot more fun being praised and smiled at than being criticised and avoided. Whenever he started to get angry, he simply thought of the soft hay in the crib, and he could feel the anger disappear. On the last morning before the Christmas holidays, the children were about to rush into the classroom, but they found it in total darkness. They crept in, all very puzzled. In the middle of the room was a circle of lights, and in the middle of that stood the crib. It was filled from top to bottom with hay, and spread out on top of the hay was a delicate white cloth, so fine and so dainty that it might have fallen straight from heaven. "This year we had a particularly lovely Advent," said Mrs. Beck with a smile. "If the newborn Jesus were to lie in our crib, he would have a very soft, warm bed. Thank you, children." After that, they all sang a carol together. Toby sang particularly wholeheartedly. Before they went home for holidays, Toby took a sprig of hay, just as a souvenir. I love that story. I think it's the best one yet. There's something about Christmas that reminds us of how we can be kinder, more loving, and more generous. Something that reminds us about the importance of friends and family and being kind to others. I hope you feel the same way too, and that you have lovely dreams tucked up in a warm, cosy bed. Sleep tight.